Hi, team. So, we've got another episode today, and it is going to be on how do you get yourself into the position to be able to do something like Project Thor. Okay, so I'll go through a bit of the practicalities right near the end. I'll go through some of the things that you should look out for. What are the mental spaces that you're in? I talk about discipline and willpower and why that's the harder route to go down. And then just inviting you onto the 5-day challenge in terms of the wait list. We're not actually launching it yet, but this is we introduced concept of the chimp and how we should work with it. And I also ask you quite an important question in the episode. And I'm hoping that question is something that opens up your mind and makes you, it's like an aha moment, like, oh, I don't know the answer to that. And I should. And Don's saying that's really important. So I'd like you to listen, see if that question pops out to you. Let me know in the comments if you do, or send an email or Instagram, however you want. Like, please engage. This is the stuff that I live for. So without further ado, enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast with your host, Don. So I'm really trying to get Ray back on. Oh my goodness, look at that. That's what happens when you wear a white shirt around kids. I don't even know what that is. I'm really trying to get Ray back on the podcast, and she's just busy at the moment. So, I heard her recording a podcast for her Cube company with her sister next door. And unfortunately, we're going to have to surge on just me. But that does mean that we get an opportunity for me to just talk off the back of last week's episode, telling you about like the why and what are the foundations behind Project Thor. I thought maybe today would be a good episode where we talk about the how. So obviously you would have heard me in the intro talk about some of the things we went through, but as essentially it's like, how on earth do you get yourself into a position where you're able to take on a challenge like Project Thor and actually see it through and navigate the challenges? And the reason I think this comes up for me when I'm thinking about planning this is because it's not the first time I've tried something like this. And I'm pretty sure that if you're listening to this and you like Identity Human, then you resonate with some of the things that we talk about and what we stand for. Because there's a lot of things that normally get in the way of you wanting to do you. I'm listening to a book and talks about collectivism versus individualism. So a collectivist society or culture, for example, they talk about in Asia, versus the American like hyper individualism, where it's all about the individual and competing and achieving, whereas the collectivism was all about everyone else. And I was like, oh, it's an interesting concept, because if you're not hardwired to be super competitive and focus on yourself first and above everyone, you have to learn that, because what you're used to culturally, or the way you get brought up is, well, it's everyone else, it's everyone else, it's everyone else. So when you are this type of person that taking on Project Thor or project whatever it is in your life, if you haven't learned that you are by, what's the word I'm looking for, at your source, collectivism, you're a collective individual, you have to learn to undo that kind of and find your balance. And that can be quite hard if you don't recognize it. So what I mean is, if you have tried to go to the gym before to lose weight, I mean, that's a classic example. It could be start a business before. It could be anything that serves your needs above others. It's really hard to keep that up, because the excuses that come in are all around, but what about the kids? What about your friends? What about your partner? What about your mom? What about X, Y, and Z? Whatever reason comes up, it's like, oh, but we're inconveniencing them. Or there are other reasons where actually I don't matter. And I think this is one of the dark sides to collectivism, is you can get to a point where you don't see the value that you add to others. So therefore you don't value yourself enough. And I did a talk last week, Friday, and someone asked, what's the one thing that irritates you the most about people? And it was something along those lines in terms of that question. And immediately, I didn't even think about it. I was like, wasted potential. And it's not in a judgmental way. It's exactly what what I'm trying to do here, for myself and for you that are listening, is it doesn't irritate me. It saddens me. It doesn't irk me. It's something that I'm driven by, where we get brought up into an environment where we don't realize why it's important for us to work on ourselves, why it's important for us to be healthy, why it's important for us to be fit. Why is it important for us to go and listen to a book about communication? Why is it important for us to be able to be doing more than we currently are? Because we never see that reason, right? So those why. So like, when you choose to go out and drink and you get drunk and you're hungover the whole of Sunday, so you don't give your best to your kids if that's what you do, or you go into work and you're not inspired, so you end up talking to the people around you and you end up influencing them in a negative way. And I mean negative as in like some people are really struggling, but they go in and they enjoy their work, and you're the kind of person that doesn't enjoy it, so you speak negatively about it. So that puts that thought in their mind. Same with if you're a parent and you complain about your kids, and then you go and talk to someone else that is struggling with their kids and they need perspective that allows them to realize why they're doing this. And you go, oh, kids, and you roll your eyes and you like got to deal with them again. That puts that narrative on them, right? And at the core of it, I think it's because we haven't been brought up. We haven't been raised to realize our value with others. So therefore, we think it's okay for us not to bring our best foot forward. And I don't mean best as in like you're constantly being hyper ambitious and you're being the perfect specimen. But I mean like, if you want to put it into context, again, if you were to split life into 10, and I only do 10 for a ratio, it's like a timeline thing again. Are you positive 8 times out of 10, or are you negative 8 times out of 10? Because if you're negative more than you are positive, that's what I'm talking about. You're not serving. I don't think you could ever get to, well, you might be able to, but I doubt, like, because we're all humans, we're all a nightmare to live with, right? I doubt you're going to find yourself as someone that's 10 out of 10, happy, perfect all the time. So that's not what we can chase that, because if you're chasing 10 and you get to 7 or 8, you're living a pretty good life. Like, you're pretty well put together, because there's a human essence. But if you're chasing a 6 out of 10 that you're positive, and you get to 4, you're actually more negative than you are positive. Does that make sense? Like, I know I'm rambling all over the place here, but it's centered around our value to others. And if we don't realize our value to others, then we think it's okay to carry ourselves in a negative way, to carry ourselves by going, I don't need to stand up and achieve something for myself. I don't need to go and ask for a raise. I don't need to go and lose weight. It doesn't matter. But actually, are you saying it doesn't matter, or that you don't matter? Because what about the effect that you can have on others? So it's always like, I'm always thinking maybe this is where collectivism as a principle does actually work, but we've forgotten how many different contexts fall in line. Is if you can bring the best version of yourself that you currently can at that moment in time, and you interact with 5 people, you have a chance to help 5 people change their perspective just by how you are carrying yourself, without having to put effort into it, right? So I think that point that I originally brought up is like what irks me or what irritates, not an irk or an irritation in a negative way. It's like a come on, guys, like, how exciting is life? Like, shouldn't we be hanging around people that are like literally looking at you, be like, how exciting is life? Like, how cool is this? Like, look, you've got kids. Isn't that amazing how and that's why when you watch an Instagram reel and someone's put effort into, or YouTube video or something, and they go like, one day you won't have the kids, there's this, and all they're doing is they're shaping your perspective. And you look at your kids, you're like, that's right. Like, I want to spend time with my children. I know that they're throwing a tantrum right now, but I remember I used to do that too. And that's okay. So like, you can actually get alongside and be like, oh, you're experiencing some big emotions. How cool is this? Like, you get excited about life. Like, I don't think we carry enough of that with us, because no one's given us permission to, or we don't see other people doing it. And I think I've always, even with gaming athlete, and if you look at my history of things, it's like, it's trying to give yourself or other people permission to be good people, because there is that troll, the negative side of life, and there are genuinely hurt people that want to hurt people. And you go onto Instagram and you can see it. There are just people that go and make comments to bring other people down unnecessarily, like just negative. That's almost like a reflection of what we think in life. If I'm positive, someone's not going to like it. Therefore, I'm not going to be positive. I'm not going to be excited because that's going to offend them. And actually, can we not flip the script to be, it's okay to be excited and show that who you are is excited for someone else's kids, like for the way they're going to play with them, and even if they're in a negative space and they go, oh, you're being unrealistic. It's like, that's not a reflection on your realism or theirs. That's all on them. How do we build up that character? How do we make sure that we realize the value, the difference that we can make to others? And I think that's a long-winded way of talking about Project Thor, for example. Any project or challenge that you want to take on is, you first have to get yourself into a position where you realize your value, so that you then have another motivation to go, well, I am gymming for myself. I am doing something for myself, but I realize that by doing this, I can positively affect those around me. Again, go back to self-awareness creates a better individual impact. A better individual impact creates a better collective impact. We've just got to keep on that cycle, so you start to realize how important it is. And it's not about being selfish. It's about making sure you're doing something for yourself. It's a very big difference. So on Project Thor specifically, what are some of my tips? Some of my tips are, you've got to get yourself to, you know how people say, oh, you've just got to decide. You haven't made the decision yet. It's like, okay, I'm going to go and decide. But I don't want to put a limit on anyone, but if you are not in the position where you can just decide to do something, whatever is blocking you, then that's where the work comes in. You have to get yourself into a position mentally to be able to go, I'm just making that decision. And I think no one speaks about that bit. They only speak about, you've just got to decide and then you do it. It's like, well, do you know what? If it was that easy to just decide and do it, we wouldn't have this issue. It wouldn't be a common thing, but we do. So how do we get ourselves into a position where we can just decide and we are able to approach things and do them regardless of what comes around us, because those excuses no longer matter? One of the things is self-awareness around what makes you tick and what drives you. And, my immediate thing is go and read the Chimp Paradox if you haven't read it. And if you've read the Chimp Paradox and you want to deep dive and you want to make a story around it and make it exciting and tell a story that brings you forward, then go to www.identityhuman.com and put yourself on our wait list for the next challenge. It might be coming up in the next 6 weeks or so. Because in that, I'll take that Chimp Paradox thing and I'll put it into a challenge that allows you to take on, no matter how busy you are, a day, and put a story around it and just wrap around this, like weave in all of this understanding that's going to build into something in a year or two that you're going to be like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I'm telling you that that's around the corner. But you don't just get there without foundational work around knowledge, without mastery of self, without mastery of, say, mastery of knowledge, mastery of emotion, mastery of physical practice. That's what I'm trying to build up, is we have to create awareness around what makes us tick and what drives you. But if I said to you right now, like, what makes you tick and what drives you, you're probably going to say, I don't know. And that's okay, because I recognize that, like, sometimes if you're just about others, you don't really need something to drive you. Maybe others drive you, but actually there's got to be something deeper than that, because eventually that fuel runs out. That fuel of like, well, I just like helping others. Yes, of course you like helping others, but how much effect are you actually having on helping others? And what I think is wrong with the narrative of I like to help others is, what happens when there's no one that needs your help? And you're then not motivated to do something for you because you're like, well, I don't matter. Okay, so I want us to start to think about, in order to help others, I have to matter. Because if I matter, then I can show that towards others and I can really help them. So I want us to try and bring through a deeper level of understanding of how we can then affirm an identity that suits us and others, not just an identity that suits others and not us. And it's okay to stand up and be annoyed. It's okay to put boundaries in place. And there's a lot of work that goes into identity. Yeah, that's what we try and do, right? An identity human. But it's not, if you're unable to do it at the moment, it isn't about time or overwhelm or you've got too much going on. It's just about the identity that you are currently holding for yourself. And I know that you would have heard that before. And how do we get around that? Because, if someone said to me, oh, it's just about your identity, like, yeah, okay, what does that even mean? Because there's so many then beliefs and environment and so many different things that you have to think about, that It's all about stirring up this emotion within the chimp, if we want to link it in. And the one question I'm going to ask you now is, who do you want to be in 5 years' time? Not what, not where, not how, not how much money do you want to be making. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff yet. You build into that. But your first question is, who do you want to be in 5 years' time? Now, I know that I can ask you, who are you? If you start with an external thing, I'm a father, I'm that, that's already, or a mother, that's already where you are placing your identity in others, because that's who you are to others. Okay, so I want you to think about who you are now and who do you want to be in 5 years' time. And if you don't know those answers, that's what you've got to think about, is like, what stops you from being able to see stuff through and challenges and gets you stressed out and gets you overwhelmed. Or it's those two questions that you haven't thought about and refined enough. Or if you know who you are right now, then understand that you're placing so much certainty in who you are now that it is getting in your way of being where you want to be. So you have to be able to flex a little bit. Okay, if you want to know more, again, go to the 5-day challenge. I know that may seem like I am selling it because I believe in it that much. Go into that challenge. If you like the challenge, come into the course, and this is where we will start to really hone in on all of these things. The next kind of principle or thought you would have heard is like this all or nothing mentality. I'm someone that goes all in. Yeah, great. Okay, how's that serving you so far? Okay, are you blind to some things that you haven't achieved? Have you failed in the past? And put that up to something else other than your inability to see it through. So an all or nothing mentality, you've got to be very careful of, because life, literally, if you've got a business and you've got kids and you've got social and the speed of the world at the moment, your all or nothing mentality means that you're going to go to the gym 7 days a week or 5 days a week. You're going to go to the gym 5 days a week for the next 3 months. But then what happens when your kid gets sick or your business, needs you to pay more attention to it? Then you're going to go, okay, well, I can't go to gym 5 days a week, therefore I'm not going to gym at all. Do you recognize that you may have done that before? Or I'm all in with the kids, so I'm going to spend all my time with them. It's like, well, how's that working out for you? You're getting frustrated because you're losing patience. You're unable to understand them, or you understand them, but you've told them the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and they're still not listening, right? And then all of a sudden a friend comes along and your kid does the same thing to your friend, shows the same behavior, and your friend is just like, oh, that's cool. And you're like, no, that's not. And you've lost all your patience, but your friend has a different perspective. Okay, so you're all in with your kids actually doesn't serve you that well. You've got to find that balance. And I don't know if I said it last week or if I explained to someone, but yeah, I think I did. The Pistons analogy. But if you didn't listen to last week, if you were talking about prosperity in life and you got 5 different pistons like a car, you want to make sure that you're operating in a good rhythm, not just like up and down, up and down, and up and down in different areas of life. So this all or nothing mentality is that analogy. And I want you to try and break that. And how do we break that? I want you to try and think 2 phases ahead. So if you're thinking 2 phases ahead, if you achieve your goal of X in 3 months' time and you've gone all in, how is that going to affect you in the next 3 months and then the following 3 months after that? If by the end of the year you achieve your goal of starting a business, what next? Because if you start to think about what next, you realize that your all or nothing was too much. I want to do an Ironman. I'm all in on an Ironman. Okay, well, what happens after that Ironman? Do you go back to how you are now? So then you put on weight, you're not as fit, and you just repeat that cycle? Or do you want to try and see how you can level things out so that you're working at a higher level than you are, but not at a level that you cannot maintain for 3 phases instead of 1? So I hope you're seeing the phases as in like your first phase is the goal that you've gone all in on. And I'm saying, but there's another 2 that you have to think about to see how it balances out. Because if you're not seeing the long-term balancing effect of what you're doing, that's when that all or nothing isn't going to serve you. Okay, so it could be months, it could be years, it could be challenges, it could be individual things. And I just want you to try and think all or nothing is not going to serve you. It doesn't mean, maybe this is where we need to just give context. It doesn't mean that you don't give it your all. It just means that you don't have that approach that if I can't do it all, I don't do anything. Because I think that's where we start to fail. It's like, I haven't gone to gym, so therefore going to gym once a week actually doesn't work, so I'm not going to do it. That's that all or nothing that doesn't serve us. So how do we get through this? I would say Structure your life in teeny tiny ways. Yes, I said teeny tiny, and hopefully you're going to remember teeny tiny. Don said teeny tiny. Teeny tiny ways means that we are battling the all or nothing by doing something, even if it's small. Because those small things, if you think like a colony of ants, they add up, and there's now suddenly millions of ants. Like, take your house down, right? But one ant wouldn't. So if you can start to just think about small ways of structuring up your life, and one example is calendar blocking. Like, just one, we've spoken about this in so many episodes before. One day a week, commit to doing something. Making sure that you have non-negotiables. One thing a day that's a non-negotiable. Like, my cold showers is mine, regardless of anything else that happens. And or if you've got the all or nothing approach and you're trying to gym, just do one session a week as a non-negotiable, and anything above that, it's great, well done. But I'm trying to say, this is where it starts to set you up. If you went one day a week for the next year, how much further ahead would you be in your gym than if you try to do 4 days a week and then went on holiday, did nothing, and when you come back, you can't get back into that rhythm, or you don't have the time to go to that gym, in 4 days a week because you've changed business, or you've changed your employment, or you've got another kid, and like, life changes all the time. And if you don't structure in with flexibility, so you have your non-negotiables and your flexible structures, you're going to set yourself up to fail. So it's like, someone asked me, like, how do you manage change, like change management? Like, you've got to be able to have some flexibility paired with non-negotiables. So again, you got your timeline, two ends of the spectrum, pendulum swinging. You don't want the pendulum swinging from one end to the other. You want that rhythm right in the middle. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It creates a good rhythm. Okay, so let me just bring in some practicality. So how do I actually fit it in? So last week's title was why, or I can't even remember, it was like going after Project Thor with 4 kids and a business, a couple of businesses. So how do I actually fit it in? Some practicality. So what are the things that you wouldn't necessarily see that you probably would need to consider, or how am I doing it? So when I first started in the foundation phase and the first bulking phase, it was, we got 4 kids. So our daily routine is wake up, and we just literally dedicate that to the kids in the morning, as in get them fed, get them fed, get them dressed, do the homework, and make sure that they get to school on time. And as simple as that sounds, with 4 kids, it's never that simple because, if you've got kids, I don't have to explain. If you don't have kids, I can't explain it. You have to live it, right? So it seems like 3 hours is a long time to get them, and it is. If you've got them good rhythm, good routine. But remember, they are children. They're not adults. They're not robots. So every day is different with them. So I first started off doing home gym, a lot of home gym. It was like 3 or 4 home gyms a week, where I had, a bench press with that only went up to like 80 kgs, a couple of adjustable dumbbells, a kettlebell, and so like a skipping rope. And then I just got Pete to just help me program around that. And you can make some pretty wicked programs. And they would vary. Like, some workouts would be 25 minutes. I said, listen, on a Tuesday, I only have 20 minutes. On a Friday, they can be 40 minutes. And we just worked around what we could. Then I had to start to go and get heavier weights because we want to do Project Thor properly. So I joined the gym, Premier Fit. And so I could then go, okay, on a Saturday morning, I can go because that's when we have some flexibility. And a big element of that was teamwork. So by the way, working as a team is probably the key element here. Is if I'm gymming in the morning and I gym with Ray, one of us will always be able to flex in and out of that session, or we gym slightly separately. I'll gym first, then Ray gyms, or then Ray gyms first, then I gym. So it's making sure that someone's always able to attend to the kids. So Sam, going to an actual gym, it's 15 minutes drive, but I really like that drive. Ray doesn't go to an actual gym. She just gyms at home, but I really like that separation, the switch on in the car, music on, you get yourself into the zone and you can play. And it's not like, sometimes it's a book, not just music. I actually think listening to an audio book while gymming is probably one of the best ways that I learn and listen, because you're moving the whole time, but you're focusing. So I had to start to go to gym to do heavier weights, and we've just started the bulk phase now, the second bulk phase. And the second bulk phase, it is heavier weights. I don't have the weights at home. So I've had to make a plan to get to gym, but our daily life doesn't change, right? Because kids is a priority. So you always think about, what are your priorities? The kids are still a priority because that is what it is. Ray, at the moment, with being as busy as she is, I have more flexibility. So I have to make sure that if she needs extra half hour to go to an early meeting or something, I can step in. So the only time that I can get certainty to gym is at 5 a.m. And I've never been a 5 a.m. type of person until now. So for the past 2 weeks, I've gone to gym 4 days in a row, waking up at 5 a.m. Even this morning, for some reason, and I need to check my alarm didn't go off. So, but at 5:07, I woke up and I was like, oh, got to go to gym. So got dressed, and so by the time I get back, which is 6:30, if the kids wake up at 6 o'clock, Ray's only had them for half an hour, for example, on her own. So I can get back, she can then go do exercise, do what she needs to do. So it's been a lot of teamwork, but also making sure that if I have to go to gym 4 to 5 times a week, there are no excuses. And that comes down to what I said earlier about identity. And we've also taken on a 30-day challenge. Ray always seems to do this when I've got the bulking phase. But the challenge now is electronics off, and we're in the bedroom at 9:30. So no phones, anything like that. So you can journal, you can meditate, you can do breathing. You have half an hour. You have a nice bath. You just have half an hour to wind down. And then by 10 o'clock, it's lights off strictly for the next 30 days. And then also we're waking up at 6 a.m. and no later. So that challenge is going on. Now, I'm fully committed to it. Ray's obviously got a few extra bits, so she's doing fasting. I can't fast because I'm bulking. I can't remember some of the other bits because the sleep is the main one. It's really actually helping getting some consistency and routine. Now, what's for me, what might be coming into your mind is like, there's quite a lot to take on. There's a few reasons why I couldn't do that. And I can't explain to you, but I didn't just, I started to do 99 press ups on the 17th of January. And I was in a position where I just decided I'm going to start doing 99 press ups a day. But I've never been the kind of person that just decides and does. But I've built that in. And the whole point of this episode is to get you that don't think that if there's something that you want to achieve and do and set your mind to, if you cannot do that yet, there is a way that you will be able to. But the harder you try, the further away it's going to get. So actually focus on who you are and how you are and build the little habits. And eventually, and if you go through the 5-day challenge and you do the chimp paradox stuff and you understand it, you will get to a point where the chimp works for you, not against you. Okay, and I feel like that's the best way of me explaining. If you don't know our stuff, then I'm sorry that this is quite fine. I'm trying not to be secret about it because I feel like it's just, if you're listening to this and it's working, you've got to understand your chimp. You've got to understand all your chimps, which we break it down to like 7 different traits, 7 different chimps that we all have. When you understand how that, like the analogy that I say, like your chimp, you've seen it in your subconscious, this works in the dark. So when it operates and you don't know that it's operating, it just does what it thinks is in the best interest of you and it. What you've got to do is almost like calm it down, understand what it's trying to do, work with it, and then eventually guide it. It's the way I say, like you work as a team with it. And it becomes an unreal force. Like it's so powerful that I used to make up so many different excuses why I shouldn't. And you know how you could be in a position right now where you're taking something on and people talk about willpower and discipline and it's so hard to do. So eventually after like 2 or 3 weeks, you're just like, I need a rest. Oh, I need a rest. Oh, like this is so hard to do. Like I'm working really hard. Can't you see how hard I've worked hard for this? And there's almost this frustration, this anger, because you're forcing yourself to do something that isn't quite flowing, but you've got enough stamina, discipline, power to like forge on. But inside it's eating you up. And it's like, the analogy is it's you're starting to operate in the red. And so you start to pop a lot easier and you start like, you're almost at breaking point and, right? There is a time, place, space in your life where you can do exactly what you're doing, take on the challenge that you are, And it's just a natural rhythm. You're not trying. And I know it sounds hard. Trust me, I've been in your position. All I'm trying to do is reinforce a belief in your mind that there is a time and space and place where you can put in a hell of a lot of work and it will not seem like it's a lot of work. But in order to get there, you're going to have to do a lot of other bits of work on yourself, on building up the little things so that you can get the big thing. Now, why I say that is because I am currently I've missed, this isn't boasting, it's just to show you the integrity behind it. Like, we've got a couple of businesses, 4 kids, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that changes every single day. And Ray's really driven, as like you would have seen her on podcast episodes and stuff like this. And if you follow her journey, genuinely, there's so much going on. So we genuinely have to make sure that we are operating at high level all the time. But there is what I was actually saying was, I've done now Project Thor, or I'm doing Project Thor. I've done 4 weeks foundation, 6 weeks bulking, 6 weeks shred, and now I'm into the second phase of bulking. And within that, I've had to do 4 workouts a week, 4 to 5 workouts a week, 4 to 5 workouts a week, and 4 to 5 workouts a week, right? So that is, and I used to maybe do 3 or 2, and if I could, and I was like, I really struggled to. And I've missed 1, and that's because I went away to Hong Kong for like 4 days. I still managed to gym 3 of those days, but the travel meant I couldn't fit in that extra gym day. So I've missed 1 in all of that. And if that doesn't mean something to you, that's fine. But to me, that's hella impressive, if that makes sense. It's really impressive for me, my self-confidence, my integrity. And I don't look back and go like, there wasn't a day when I was like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to have to force myself to do it. And so the point is that there is something in you, but we have to learn how to jig your puzzle piece the right way that it locks into place and allows you to be able to operate at a level without it being high effort, so that you're not getting stressed, you're not getting overwhelmed, you're not getting burnt out from trying all of these things. Like, that's what we're trying to, whether you want to call it resilience, whether you want to call it purpose, it all ties in. This episode's got to be something that fuels you. If you've managed to listen to the whole thing, and amazing. I want it to be something that you can take away and go like, okay, I know that I'm in a space where I'm at that discipline point that Don said, or that motivation, and I'm constantly pushing myself, and I'm on the edge. But there is a space and time in the future where that becomes a natural rhythm, becomes easy, because that's the transformation that I felt within myself. Mentally, it's like, instead of putting in so much effort into myself, it just starts to flow. But let's just say it's off the back of 2 years of hard work, of going through those disciplines, of going through those things, and really like understanding how it taps you out in other areas, and you start to become short, and it just can be quite hard. So the point is, like, keep going, but everything that you're trying to, that's so hard, break it down to smaller, and understand the value of those smaller things, and understand the value in yourself. So thank you very much for listening. Remember, I'll work on me for you if you work on you for me. Ubuntu, we are who we are through others. So I'll catch you in the next episode. Any comments, any questions, please do let me know. And if you've liked this and you want some of what I've said, go and join the 5-day challenge or the waitlist for it, and you'll get the emails out for it, and you won't miss it. And I'll promise, I guarantee, to blow your mind. Okay. Have a great week.